we're back, right?
Guess
Oh,
who's
goodness.
back? Back again.
Well, welcome to Politically Deconstructing with me, Cass, and my lovely co-host, Miss Lady Google. Today, we are gonna be getting into it, guys. We got the tariff ruling this morning. We are gonna be talking about a few other things that piqued our interest, like, for instance, the fact that real estate people in southern Texas are saying, hey, you know what? South Texas may never be fucking red again if you keep continuing this fuckery, Trump. We're gonna be talking about Kid Rock and RFK's video, the Fifth Circuit ruling, which Puerto Rico actually tagged in on and said, yeah, that's cool if you mass detain people. And then Googs has got some amazing topics as well. What you got going on today, girl?
I wanted to talk about Donald Trump transferring $10 billion of your taxpayer dollars to the Board of Peace, where he exclusively will be controlling that money, like super fun. And then also a really interesting EPA rollback where Trump is wanting us to continue to manufacture at a higher rate. Everybody remember demonizing Monsanto and that nasty little chemical that caused cancer? Well, Bayer bought out Monsanto, and Bayer's settling for like $7 billion, all these cancer claims. And then here comes Trump and he says, no, 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 no. We're going to ramp up production of chemicals that cause cancer. Yay!
Okay, wait. I want to cover that one first because I think that's the biggie, right? Especially because we're gonna talk about like RFK and Kid Rock here in a minute. I feel like a huge platform for Trump was Maha, Make America Healthy Again. So
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit more about that?
So, I mean, there's not a ton. So, as everybody knows, farmers use chemicals to kill weeds and like we have
Yeah.
pesticides. There's this particularly nasty little pesticide that everybody was like, "Oh my god, like we're going to sue Monsanto because it's causing a bunch of it's called glyphosate. It's a pretty nasty chemical. It kills weeds at the root. It
Yeah.
caused a lot of cancer. It was pretty much determined that we needed to take that off the market. Monsanto kind of went under because of that, because they got sued. Bayer then came in and bought them, which I never understood why Bayer would want to come in and buy a company with that many lawsuits against it. Bayer is proposing to settle all of these cancer lawsuits for like $7.25 billion. That's a
It's a
lot of
lot.
money in settlements, right? Because there's a lot of claims that this chemical causes cancer. There's RFK was part of the Monsanto claim. Like he was part of that case. And now magically, because Trump wants to ramp up production of this chemical, RFK is like, well, like it's okay, we're fine. So much for, like make America healthy again. And yeah, like so and let's be real, as a farmer, you know that I know how this all works.
Absolutely.
That chemical really effective for farmers, cost effective, and does the job. I'm sorry. Oh, you're telling them to tap.
Yeah.
My bad. I didn't know if you were on mute.
Okay.
There are environmentally friendly ways that we can do this. Are they a little more expensive? Yes, they are. They also don't kill all the way down to the root, so we were required to put it on more than once sometimes, depending on so it costs us more money, but overall we weren't going around spreading cancer to consumers or neighbors who lived near us when we're spraying this on our crops. As a farmer, I was always willing to eat the extra cost to not give
Yeah.
people cancer. Like, call me crazy. But now, we're just going to roll that back and we're like, no, no, no. Let's go. Let's just start giving people cancer again.
Well, and I find this particularly like just so ironic. I mean, I thought the whole goal for RFK, I mean, besides like destroying vaccines and propagating autism, was to get the unhealthy shit out of our food. Like, was that not a thing? Did I
It
misunderstand?
it it was a thing. It was a thing. Like that's kind of, I mean, that was one of his big things, right? Like, we're going to do away with the dyes. We're going to do away with the chemicals. We're going to do away with the hormones. We're going to make America healthy again. However, ladies and gentlemen, we're not going to do away with cancer causing chemicals because it makes things easier for farmers.
I feel you. Just noting for the chat, this is more of a podcast live. We don't do guests on this one, but you are welcome, so welcome to stay and listen. We love you all and we appreciate you being here. We're just going through like news of the week, the weekly hellscape that we are in. But, speaking of hellscape, we actually got a little bit of a pushback on our daily hellscape today. So we got the tariff ruling in. I was live earlier with Law of the Wild discussing this because, as everybody knows, I normally do SCOTUS lives. I do tag in on political lives, but SCOTUS lives are sort of my bread and butter. That's what I do on here. So I go live for decisions today because I'm like, we're not getting the tariff ruling. Like, that's not a thing, right? Like, that's not going to happen today. I got all of 2 minutes of preparation in, and I just got on and was like basically freestyling, because normally I will go on about 15 minutes early and go through what are we going to get? What are we going to be, talking about today? But I was like, we're probably just going to get a lame drop. I figured they'd drop this more. They had a few other days that they're releasing decisions this upcoming week. However, we got the tariff ruling this morning and they said, no, bitch, you can't do that. And I'm going to tell you from a personal perspective, I needed this. I needed this in a way that I can't emphasize enough. I needed to know that if Trump overstepped, they were going to check him, no matter the outcome. Now, I tell everybody this. I don't always agree with the outcomes of SCOTUS decisions, but as somebody who is fond of textualism and who actually is more inclined to that myself, I do understand that they are not overburdened with outcomes, right? Like, they're not sitting there worried about what's the outcome of this. They're worrying about what the fuck does the law say? And if it doesn't say this, we're not doing this. Well, I will say this. We got a 6-3 decision back on the tariffs. And that was a decision Google sat in on that live with the tariffs with me. I couldn't call it. Law couldn't call it. And we're usually pretty good about being like knowing where, they're kind of probing too much, where they're going to go. That one was a dead heat for both of us. But they came back and said, nope, you can't use IEPA, which is Emergency Economic Powers Act, to invoke tariffs. Now, does this mean he can't use other methods? No, because this directly addressed IEPA. However, this is a nice pushback from SCOTUS saying you don't get to just do whatever the hell you want. We're not playing this game. We're not doing that. And I felt like, sometimes we need a win, and let's take the win, guys. Like, let's take the win. Let's be okay with this and let's move forward. Now, as far as businesses getting their money back, that's going to be another uphill battle. We're sort of going to have to parse through the ruling. It's rather long. I'm going to try to go live later on this evening, potentially with Law of the Wild, to go over this more in depth. I'm sure Attorney Di is on right now reading it out. So she's also a great follow. But we'll try to get into some of the nuance of it later. But I wanted to tell you all the basics of the decision today. So I think it's really important.
That was one of the questions I was going to have for you. And I'm glad that you said you're going to cover this later, because one of the things I was wondering is how they're going to handle whether or not people are going to get paid back. You and I in other lives have discussed like what that would look like, whether or not it's going to go back to the companies. Clearly, we know the companies are not going to find every consumer that bought a good and said, here's your money back. That's not going to happen. And I think that you and I maybe kind of agreed that we felt like maybe the most responsible way to handle it would be to make it proactive, like going forward, to not impose future tariffs, but to like just kind of chalk it up as a loss, the money that's already been paid, because where is that really going to go other than to enrich the corporations that have already charged us for what they...
Well, and that was something we did talk about earlier. people are already used to paying this price. Oh, thank you. People are already used to paying this price. So are we going to see kind of what we saw post-pandemic when we were coming out of the pandemic, which is people are already used to paying that price, so why not just keep it there? Or are companies going to, I mean, and I hate to say this because companies are the ones fighting against this. I think you may see more small businesses doing this, but like if you buy from Amazon, they're probably not going to care. But you may see more small businesses in your community able to roll back their prices a little bit. It's a big push for like the shop local, support your small businesses in your community. I know I'm a huge fan and very antisocial of not going anywhere, but you know what? I will go to the little grocery store in my town if they have better prices and a better product, because we should be doing that. So I think
even pay a little bit more to support my local mom and pop. Like for my day-to-day random, hey, I need eggs, or I got to grab a gallon of milk, or I run a mile from my house, pay a little bit more, save the time, and support the local business.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's a really interesting point because like you said, after the pandemic, we saw all these prices go up because of shipping costs and supply lines. And then what happened when all of that worked itself out? We never saw costs go down. So it'll be interesting to see how this works.
Well, and ultimately, we are still dealing with the supply chain disruptions of the pandemic. And that's why, like, I'm not all of them. I won't say some of them didn't resolve. So please don't misunderstand me here. But we're still dealing with some of those issues and some of the recovery from that. Like, people always automatically expect that this is just going to be like, we're recovering right now. No. Recovery takes time. It takes years and years and years to actually fully recover from these things. And this is another reason why tariffs were so detrimental. I believe, and somebody told me this, and I haven't checked it, so please don't quote me on it, that Trump basically indicated that he has another plan to do tariffs. Like, read the room, brother. Like, read the room. Like, I just don't get it, and I probably never will.
They're wildly unpopular.
Yeah.
They're wildly unpopular. I don't know why he's continuing down this path. Like, I feel like we even now have the Supreme Court that has ruled in and been like, dude, this is not good. There's not an economist out there you're going to find that agrees that this is healthy for our economy. Like, stop it.
Yeah, I mean, and I wish he would, but he just, like, honestly, I don't think he gives a fuck. Oh, sorry, did not mean for I thought my computer was already on. But yeah, so tell us more about your other topic.
So is everybody aware? Like, I'm just going to assume and give you a little background on what the Board of Peace is. So the Board of Peace is this international board that Trump put together completely outside of the purview of him being president of the United States, right? Like, he did it from office, but it doesn't really have any ties to him being president. It's not like every president is going to hold a part of this board. He created it. He appointed himself the chairman of it. And we've got like 7 or 8 countries that have paid $1 billion to him to be part of this. You've got Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar, Egypt, Turkey, Israel, Argentina, and Hungary. Kind of like the who's who of shitty governments around the world, in my opinion. Again, my opinion. And so now Donald Trump has said, he was speaking at the Board of Peace, and he goes, he's going to take $10 billion of our taxpayer money, and he's going to transfer it to the Board of Peace. $10 billion, which, number one, constitutionally, he cannot do. There are all kinds of things in place in our government that don't allow him to do this. But as we have seen so often with this administration, whether or not he can really doesn't matter. He just does. He is solely responsible for how this money will be spent. He has no oversight whatsoever. Like I said, he created this board of peace. He named himself chairman, and it's kind of a lifetime appointment. The only way he isn't the chairman of the board of peace is if he steps down and names his own successor. So it's an independent thing that he created where he is now going to take $10 billion of taxpayer money and put it in an offshore account that he has exclusive rights to use however he sees fit with no oversight.
Yeah.
And their first announced project is spearheaded by Eric Trump. And it's going to be, or is it Jared Kushner? It might be Jared Kushner. I take it back. It might be Jared Kushner. It's a real estate deal, and they're going to invest $25 billion into rebuilding a Mecca, a billionaire's Mecca on the rubble of Gaza. That is their first proposed plan for the Board of Peace.
Okay, so basically he's created a nonsense board and is charging me money for it. That's what we're doing now?
That's what we're doing. And with people that aren't even American allies, and charged them all $1 billion to get on to this board. And then he's going to take $10 billion from us. And now they're going to redevelop Gaza. Sounds like a real estate deal to me on the taxpayer dime.
Yeah, okay, so we're paying money.
Do we get free tickets? Do we get free tickets? Is it like Disney World? It's like Disney World to billionaires. Do we get free tickets since we're funding it?
Well, they won't even do free passports, so I doubt it.
Yeah.
I mean, because the SAVE Act, they're so big on this SAVE Act, but they don't realize it's a poll tax. And like I've told everybody, as long as it doesn't affect midterms or primary voting because the government is slow as shit, right? And they provide free passports to everybody because it's conclusive proof of citizenship. I'll sign on, I'll be okay with it.
Did anybody else go get did you go get your real ID?
We've had them for years in Texas. Texas did those early as hell, the act passed and then they started doing them quick. So
yeah, no, we've been able to get them for quite some time. But like myself, I've been divorced and remarried. In order to get my real ID, I had to bring my birth certificate, my first marriage license, my divorce papers, my second marriage license, my social security card, and then a bank statement and something else proving that I live where I live and my name is what it is. And all of these things in order to get the real ID. But somehow that real ID, after all of the documentation that I had to provide for my name change, is not going to be sufficient in order to vote with.
So, what's weird is that in Texas, I never had to do any of that because when I got my initial license, I already had to bring all of that shit. I had to bring I had to have a birth certificate. I had to have this. I had to have that. We've always required a lot to achieve an ID. I don't ever remember a point that when we transitioned to the real ID that I had to bring more stuff in. I just know it has my little star on it and I can travel with it. But I honestly didn't even know it was a thing, but all the states should have it implemented by this point because frankly, the act was passed in 05, 06, I believe.
Yeah.
And I don't Texas transitioned over quickly. I mean, I'm not saying they made it available immediately, but I think by 2014-ish, everything was a real ID here. I don't remember having to do that, but I won't claim I didn't because again, it was maybe 10 years ago that I had to do it. So I can't even remember what I had for breakfast. So I
am a procrastinator. It's been on the books for, like you said, 20 years that we were supposed to do this.
Yeah.
But I think that the original hard deadline was right around C-19. And then when everything got shut down, they pushed that deadline back and pushed that deadline back and pushed that deadline back. And I literally didn't even get it until last year when I was going to be traveling quite a bit. And I had 3 trips coming up that I needed to get on an airplane for. And I was like, ooh, shit, I might need to go get that done. So I just recently did it March of last year.
Yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people did that and like I knew it was a thing, but like I guess for us it just like in Texas I never felt the like pain of it. And it's not like I'm not glazing Texas because we have our fucking
Right.
problems. But I will say like the transition to it was super easy. I was never even aware that like there was something different going on. I just remember them telling me you're gonna get a thing with the like a star on it and it's a different type of
Right.
ID. I do remember that, but I was like, okay, like I didn't even
Yeah.
know it was important at that point when
I
it
had to
happened.
bring a lot of documentation to prove that I am who I am. And now to be told that that documentation to get this ID is now not sufficient enough to ensure my right to vote is amazingly wild to me.
Well, and see, the thing is, the thing that bothers me is the number one thing listed on there is the real ID. Like I went and read through the legislation. However, a real ID that proves citizenship. Generally, the real ID does not do that. In fact, a permanent resident, I believe certain types of people who are here on like permanent residency and things like that can get a real ID. So again, they've created a whole nother problem because my
Right.
ID doesn't say US citizen. It just
Right. No, mine
says
does not either.
so and so. So like the real ID is sufficient up to the point that you have to provide that claim of citizenship. So
Right.
like now I'm going to have to go procure my birth certificate, my marriage license, things like that. And again, I have those things, but to a woman, like I just had a fire. This is an example I used the other. I just had a fire. Luckily, it did not destroy any of my documents. It was a very small portion of my house, but I did have a small fire in my house. Let's just say that this destroyed my entire house. I would then have to go pay for all that documentation that constitutes a poll tax because you're requiring it in order for me to be able to vote. It's a fucking poll tax, guys. And if you,
Identification in my state is not free.
yeah, and
Not a driver's license, not an ID. It's not free.
yeah, and so in states that require ID, usually they have some form of a program where you can get a free ID. So I can be like somewhat okay with that. Like if it's not available to you, you can still receive this. But this doesn't just change that premise. In order to register to vote now, if they were to pass the SAVE Act, and let's be so clear, guys, they don't have the numbers to pass this. They're not going to have the
Oh.
numbers. They need 60 in the Senate, and they just don't fucking have it. They're not going to be able to pass this in the Senate. And, the thing is just so crazy is like if you go and read this, it will hurt you to be able to go and vote. I'm not against voter ID inherently. I'm not. I'm
No.
okay with it. I'm okay with it to the point that you are provided that ID for free. And if the federal government wants to step in and demand that you prove citizenship in order to be registered to vote and vote, right? Like because you need to be registered to vote, then they need to provide that documentation. And right now, the only realistic documentation they can provide that is proof of American citizenship that is listed on there is going to be a passport. So the minute that you provide everybody a free passport, everybody, man, woman, child, I don't care, everybody gets one, then we can talk about it. Then we can
That
talk
part.
about it. Then I'll make a move on my position. But right now, you are leveling a poll tax against people, and I'm not here for that shit. It also could disenfranchise, married women who change their name, and also, we'll slide past that for a minute. It's a fucking poll tax. Cut the shit.
Well, and can we just talk about the fact that the whole thing is grandstanding to begin with? Because this argument that somehow voter fraud is this massive thing and we have hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants or even millions of illegal undocumented citizens. Like think about that for a minute. Going and voting and altering our election results when the actual statistics and numbers, when let's be so for real about 2020, like Donald Trump fought like 16 fucking cases in court trying to prove some level of voter fraud. It was found to be 0%, less than 1% of any fraud was even found. This is not a problem. They are creating legislation for a problem that does not exist. They are wasting your tax dollars.
And so I want to go into this because the Cato Institute, which if everybody always calls them right wing, I'm going to correct you now. They are a libertarian think tank. That's what they are. But they are, I will say this because when we live in a political like binary, right, like a spectrum where there's either or, they do lean more conservative, but libertarian is the ideology like it doesn't exist on the right to left spectrum. It exists on the up to down
Right.
spectrum where you have fascism and you have libertarianism. This is your right and left. So libertarians are down here, maximum liberty, minimal government interference, or at least if they're an actual libertarian, they're telling you this. I know that's a no true Scotsman
Right.
fallacy, but I'm going to say it because I fucking mean it. Anyway, so the Cato Institute, libertarian think tank, put out this article, and I really find this interesting. They were talking about Trump's claims of election fraud. It said Reuters has noted that even the pro-Trump Heritage Foundation database of election crimes listed only 24 instances of non-citizen voting in U.S. elections from 2003 to 2023. 20 fucking years, 24 times it happened. You know when it happens more? You know who does it more? American fucking citizens that go see somebody's mail-in ballot and then they send it off. Like the lady who voted for her
Yes.
dead mother in Minnesota because she knew her dead mom would want to vote for Trump. That's who actually does that. So we're creating a problem and solving a problem that legitimately does not exist. It just doesn't. I mean, I won't say that it never happens. Like, let me be clear. I'm not saying it never happens. I'm just saying the overreaction to the problem is ridiculous in regard to the problem, right? Like, so if you're looking at a spectrum like this, it's kind of like if you found, oh, what the hell? Who reported Googs? Hold on. Let me see where she is. Googs, come back in on your backup. Yeah, okay. So anyway, I'll talk about it like this. So this is where it's at. If you see some sort of fraud going on, right? There's fraud going on in state. Minnesota's a good example of this. They do have fraud going on in their state. There's fraud that goes on in every state, but that's neither here nor there, right? So, and you overreact by putting in 15 agencies to police the fraud. Oh, hold on, Googs, I got you, girl. Sorry, I didn't even get a violation for you, so I don't know what the hell happened. That was the weirdest thing I've ever seen.
It said I was removed for misinformation.
How? But how? Anyway, so let's say that
I got backups.
So anyway, let's say, for instance, that you put in these 15 agencies to now police fraud in one department, but you're paying people upwards of, so let's say all these agencies are costing you $1 million a year, but the actual fraud you discovered is only $10,000. The overreaction in regard to the actual fraud is sort of the problem here. I'm not saying fraud doesn't happen. I'm just saying American citizens unequivocally do it more. So saying that illegal people are the problem is fundamentally fucking stupid because, hey, Google, I'm going to run this by you. What do illegal people, or sorry, I'm sorry, that's the worst phrasing. What do undocumented citizens not want to happen to them? What do they not want?
I mean, typically they tend to live their lives pretty under the radar. They don't typically go out and do a lot of things that are going to draw attention to them, like showing up at voting polls where they may be asked for identification or, I mean, call me wild, but they're trying to fly under the radar, right?
they're trying not to risk being freaking deported. Like, that's the entire point. And in fact, one of the people that voted for Trump 3 times in Kansas was actually an undocumented citizen, but he didn't know. So I'm just saying. I'm just fucking saying. The SAVE Act is
We're
fucking
not being
stupid.
political here. We're just laying out the facts. You take from it what you want.
Listen, I will never make the claim that undocumented citizens or undocumented people do not vote or commit fraud. I'm not making that claim. I'm saying the fraud versus the reaction is absolutely ridiculous. And the reaction can actually disenfranchise American citizens who want to vote. It constitutes a poll tax. It can potentially cut off women from voting, particularly married women who have had a name change. So it's a whole freaking problem. But anyway, you know what I want to talk about? You know what I want to talk about?
What do we want to talk about?
Let's talk about.
I'm gonna mute for a second. I got a lot of
you're good.
Loud things coming my way.
You're good. So let's talk about the Fifth Circuit ruling about mass detention, and also Puerto Rico tagging in circuit out of Puerto Rico and saying, yeah, we're good with this. I went through this ruling and it was a lot of procedural nonsense. It was very boring to watch, but it is on my YouTube page if you would like to go through it. Law of the Wild is in that one. We go through it together. So here's where it kind of draws in, is that they're making the claim that the law says this, thus they can do this, right? It says that they can detain these citizens even if they're just on an overstay and blah, blah, blah. Well, the other people are contending, no, that's not what it says. I fall outside of these lines. Well, they ruled that we can just mass detain fracking anyone because it doesn't matter. None of this matters. Here was the problem, and here was the best argument they had. So the best argument that was made was, if the law has said this all this time, why did we need the Lake and Riley Act to reinforce it? That was the best claim they made. However, and this is where I always get stuck on y'all in SCOTUS lives, I'm like, I wouldn't have made that concession. Because when you start making concessions, you start saying it's okay. As an attorney there, I wouldn't have made a concession to that point. However, the attorney did concede that yeah, I mean, I guess it's under executive purview and that's how you could read it and they could do it. So again, you're putting yourself in hot shit water, not arguing your point. I don't know how this is going to go down, but I guarantee you this mass detention of people who are just here on an overstay or even who have been in the country. I think the contention was that it was a whole semantical argument in were they applying, were they seeking admission, and it got down to real nitty-gritty. But here's the thing, this is going to end up before SCOTUS. This is before all the circuits right now. We've had the ruling out of the Fifth, we've had it out of Puerto Rico. They both tagged in on this. We did have a district court ruling out of the Seventh Circuit that said the way the government is reading this is overly fucking broad. This is crazy. I'm still waiting for the appeals court decision to come in, but I'm guaranteeing you this will be back up before SCOTUS because this is going to be a circuit split. I think the territorial Puerto Rico, Fifth Circuit, maybe 11th Circuit might tag in on this. And then I think all the other circuits are probably going to say F you. Maybe the 8th Circuit, but I'm going to have to see because they're kind of they're very conservative, but they're kind of more of the old school, well, it says this or this or this. So we're going to see where that goes, but it'll be interesting. We'll be following it. And I know this is kind of boring for people, so we can move on to another topic now.
Well, no, while we're talking about this, since we were talking about money, we've been talking about where our taxpayer dollars are going. Oh, yeah. I would just like to remind you that since you're talking about people that have just overstayed their visas, right now in this country, your tax dollars are paying $12 million a day to house people that they are considering deporting. $12 million a day. So if somebody is here who is nonviolent, who just overstayed their visa, we normally let them go until their day in
On a
court.
bond.
We're paying $165 a day on average to house that individual. Just, so you can put a number with what we're talking about here.
And you know what's crazy, Google? To let them go and like just keep track of them, it was less than $6 a day per person.
$6 a day.
165.
$12 million a day of your taxpayer dollars are currently going to keep people incarcerated. You're welcome.
Gotta love it. Oh, I can't even keep track of my topics. The tariff decision totally threw me off this
Everything. But that's everything, right? Like, that's such a big one.
I know.
Do we understand that it still gives him avenues to do shit? But is it so important that we are finally seeing this separate branches of government grow a backbone and start to check certain things? Like, I understand that, like, where the e-files are concerned, we still haven't gotten what we want out of that. I don't know that we ever will. I'm seeing other countries making moves, but let's be so for real. Our Congress, who has not done a good job of standing up to this administration for anything, put forth a veto-proof majority to get these files released. We now have the Supreme Court in a 6-3 decision when we all kind of figured at best we were going to get 5-4. But we got a 6-3 decision that said, you know what, dude, you can't just do this. It is a glimmer of light at the end of a very dark tunnel.
And I just want to say, like, I have to say this. This is why Gorsuch is my wild card on a lot of cases, because while he is generally pretty fond of sort of like this unit, like he, at his heart,
Unitarian
he's a textual, yeah. At his heart, he is a textualist and he could not move past it. And that's why he's my Pookie of the day. Love you, Gorsuch. I love a spicy. Gorsuch, when he gets spicy, is my favorite spicy judge on the court. He will get so like in their shit and it's fucking hilarious. And it doesn't matter who he's doing it to. I could love the person he's doing it to, but he's so like, well, I mean, what do you think about this? And I love it. He's the best spicy judge
Here
on
for
the court.
the shade.
Yeah.
Ooh, speaking of shade, can I just bring up like something totally random?
Yeah.
I personally am loving the shade that Stephen Colbert threw at the FCC and CBS for not wanting him to air his interview with Talrico. Like, the shade that he threw at it and said, I'm not allowed to discuss this. So guess what we're going to discuss? We're going to discuss it. Like, and let's be real. This is one of those instances where CBS lawyers and executives and the FCC really just they kind of did it to themselves, because this Talrico interview probably wouldn't have amounted to a whole lot. But because they handled it the way they handled it, the views on YouTube are through the roof. And this dude got the boost that he needed because of this. Like, congratulations for doing the work for us.
But did you hear the MSNBC shade is the better question? Fucking, I think, I cannot remember his name. I think it's Lawrence something, right? Oh my God. When I talk about the fucking shade that he threw at CBS and the CBS attorneys,
Yes. Said their attorneys were terrible. Like,
he said they were dog shit. Like, he did not give a fuck. Like, and my favorite part of that was the whole FCC commissioner coming out and like writing that thing about like, this is a response to political pressure. You could never actually be flagged for this. And I don't know why you did this. Like, it's bad when the FCC is even coming out and be like, CBS, don't sign my name to this shit. Like,
Right.
I'm not doing this. I thought it was hilarious. And yes, it is. So Brandon Carr, right? Like, he's not the only person on the FCC, and like other commissioners
Right.
have come out and straight up said like that was not something we could have ever done to you because that doesn't apply to this type of broadcasting. And like it was just the shade
Well,
that Lawrence whatever threw at these people
it
was,
was it
oh my
Lawrence
God.
Welker?
Yeah, I
Is
guess
it
so.
Welker maybe? The other part I found interesting is like I will say that Crockett threw a little bit of shade too because in all fairness, CBS could have chosen or Colbert could have chosen to give equal time to all the different candidates. And he chose not to. He chose to stick with Talrico and to air it on. He chose to air it. So I mean, I'm not gonna. But at the same, like it's his show. He can platform who he wants to, and he was platforming him because he's done a really good job of calling out the bullshit. And he's an interesting candidate, right? He's a straight white going to seminary Democrat in Texas. Like he hits a lot of interesting boxes. And one of the things they discussed about were his religious views and his opposition to the Christian nationalist, which is not something that maybe Jasmine Crockett has that same like resume to do. And I think that that was a big part of the interview that they did. So
Well, something like I'm fond of Talarico. Like he's been a House member for longer than people actually know. Like I think it was 2018. He's been a House member for a long time. I've
right, you
been
being in
around
Texas,
him.
you're more
Yeah,
familiar with him.
I've been around him a long time. I'm very fond of him. I think he's very much a man about the issues. I'll say this. This is what I always say to voters in Texas. Crockett and Talarico's actual policy positions are almost indistinguishable. I look at Talarico as a strategic vote. I like Jasmine Crockett. However, I don't know that strategically she would be positioned to pull in all the moderate and the like larger part of like really just, let's call it what it is, the good old boy vote, which unfortunately
Right.
Democrats are going to have to rely on here. And this is not a knock on her. This is not anything
No.
she can control. And God damn it, I want some women in power, but we have to get people in power first. I want it, but we have to actually get people in there.
Unfortunately, you have to consider the voter base, right? Like on a national stage, given the two candidates, I feel like Crockett would probably be
Yes.
nationally a stronger
Oh,
candidate. In the
1000%.
state of Texas, with the voting demographic that you're dealing with, that is a different story. And I feel
Absolutely.
like Talrico in that situation, you have to consider what the voting base is. Talrico would be my choice there. Speaking of Texas, interesting politics, one thing you didn't get to talk about, do you want to talk about the good old boy issue that we're having in Texas right now with the housing market? I'm loving this story, guys. If you haven't heard about this, this one's like, get your tea bags out. We got some tea.
So Politico, I'm trying to find it just so I can remember all the key points. Okay, I'll just give y'all like the nitty gritty. Politico released an article about Texas real estate developers going to the GOP multiple fucking times and talking to the White House saying, y'all are fucking all of us. We can't build in the market when there's a high demand. You're taking all our people that we need. Like, you were just supposed to be rounding up the criminals, but you're rounding up everybody. We're fucked. And my favorite part of all of this is that South Texas will never be red again, thanks to them. So if you don't know, our border towns can kind of be swings, right? Like we have some border towns that are reliably red. We have some border towns that are reliably blue, but we've seen them shift in dynamics. And during 2024, even more heavily Hispanic border towns shifted towards Trump. this goes to an overarching issue that I was reading about the other day, where Hispanic voters are tending to pull back their, maybe not their support of Trump, but their satisfaction with Trump for sure. They're not agreeing with multiple policies. I felt like he told us all what he was going to do, but maybe everybody got confused, and I'm fine with that. I don't care. At this point, it doesn't matter. It's water under the bridge. However, Hispanic voters are feeling a high level of dissatisfaction with Trump, and that does not bode well for Republicans because let me tell you something. While Hispanic people can be a great conservative vote, some of the household, and I don't want to blanket everybody, so please understand this is not what I'm trying to do. Hispanic households can tend to be more conservative. They can tend to have more religious values, which may align with the Republican Party than, say, my house, right? Like, we're just kind of like fucking around in this bitch, but like it can tend to be a better vote for them. But when you're deporting friends and family members of theirs, they may not be so fond of you because of your tactics. It also comes down to the way that they're treating people, what they're doing with people. This is an overarching issue.
It's not really just about whether or not you're legal or illegal. That we have shown time and time again that they are with the Supreme Court that we were talking about earlier. They are allowed to racially profile now. Like, you have brown skin, they now get to question your legal status. Like, that does not make legal immigrants feel warm and fuzzy either.
I mean, so that is sort of a misunderstood breakdown, but I'll clarify here.
I get it.
Yeah.
Like, you can clarify, but I understand, but that's kind of how people have read that ruling.
Yeah, no. So you're not wrong, right? Like, they are not wrong because it was a TRO that SCOTUS said, like, this is overly broad and you can't do this. Like, part of the job is like identifying and suspecting people who may be in the country illegally. Right. So, but I want to say this is that it needs to work its way through the courts. Oh, thank you. They're saying it needs to work. They're saying it needs to work its way through the courts because they're not inclined to nerf an agency without it actually getting the process going through. So I agree. The outcome of that is shit, right? Like, we understand that the outcome is bad, but I wouldn't say that SCOTUS said, oh, it's just okay to do this.
That's fair. That was a misrepresentation by me. That's not exactly what they said, but they're kind of allowing it to continue until it gets through the court system.
Well, but that's the dynamic, right? Is that, like, we kind of tend to look at these rulings and we don't, like, parse out the nuance, and there is nuance to it. But since we're on a show talking about sort of that politically deconstructing and not just sort of like, I'm not sitting across from somebody I'm debating and trying to use like topic points. We're actually talking about the nuance of things. That's why I wanted to point it out. But no, you're good.
I appreciate that a lot because that is what we are doing here. That is the whole purpose of this, is to break down the partisan issues and deal with the legality of issues and understand that there's a difference between arguing the morality of something and the legality of something. That's why we do what we do and we have the conversations that we have. So I appreciate you so much.
No, I love you. And and like, I've heard it a lot. And like, during a live, I'm probably not gonna like, intervene on it. But like, I just thought that might be a good one for people because
it was great.
So we kind of like understand, like, it is absolutely what you're saying. It's allowing them to do that. But by the same token, they also said we need to let it work with blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah.
Speaking of just shitty government things and ICE, did you hear, this was the most interesting New York Times article, that Homeland Security wants social media sites to expose anti-ICE accounts?
I saw that. Like, I'm not even gonna lie to you, girl. When I first saw that, my first reaction is this has to be satire. This is somebody just saying some wild shit. It couldn't possibly be real. It was definitely one that I needed to go fact check, because if it feeds my confirmation bias, I immediately like take a pause and go find out if it's real. Because I was like, oh no. Yes.
Well, so most people don't know this. Like I automatically will take a step back when I hear we have unnamed sources in anything. But however, because of the credibility of the New York Times, the level of rigor that they subject the journalists to, I am a little bit more inclined to trust an unnamed source from them than I am from, say, something like The Atlantic. And I won't say that The Atlantic is bad. I'm not making that claim, but The Atlantic is not as well established with journalistic rigor, I feel anyway, as something like the New York Times. And then, like, let's say I have fucking Chuds R Us online, right? Like, I'm not going to trust them with an unnamed source, but I'm going to look at who the source is when they're telling me there's an unnamed source. Right. So this is fascinating. I want to read this to you. The Department of Homeland Security is expanding its efforts to identify Americans who oppose immigrations and customs enforcement by sending tech companies legal requests for the names, email addresses, telephone numbers, and other identifying data behind social media accounts that track or criticize. I want you to listen to that. Or criticize the agency. Now listen, I'm not going to make any claim that you can't track ICE. I'm not going to make that claim because it's perfectly legal and well within your First Amendment right. But I find it a little bit more egregious that if I type on, say, Twitter, or let's say Facebook, because Meta specifically mentioned. Let's say I put on Facebook, I sucks. Now I'm being subject to my data being released to them. Make it make fucking sense. Like, please make it make fucking sense. And this says, in recent months, Google, Reddit, Discord, and Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram, have received hundreds of administrative subpoenas from the Department of Homeland Security, according to 4 government officials and tech employees privy to the request. They spoke on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly. Google, Meta, and Reddit complied with some of the requests. The government said in subpoenas, the department asked the companies for identifying details of accounts that do not have a real person's name attached and that have criticized ICE or pointed to the location of ICE agents. New York Times saw 2 subpoenas that were sent to Meta over the last 6 months. The tech companies, which can choose whether or not to provide the information, have said they review government requests before complying. Some of the companies notified the people whom the government had requested data on and gave them 10 to 14 days to fight the subpoena in court. This is what I'm going to say. The government requesting information, if I simply say ICE can eat dog shit, can kick rocks and pound fucking sand. I find it absolutely the height of irony that these same people whining about Biden censoring their social media are now crying about this. And I want to be so clear. I didn't think Biden should have done what he did. And I fucking talk shit about Biden doing what he did. I didn't find it to be a First Amendment violation. However, I did find it to be highly indicative of something that could be bad and potential censorship. That's why I wasn't okay with it.
Can we talk a little bit just real quick, because you and I talked about this, what exactly line Biden didn't cross that didn't make it a First Amendment violation versus this one specifically saying if you criticize ICE, we're requesting your data. Can you, like, just real quick hit on the fact that, like, while they, I think you know where I'm going with this,
Yeah,
what
no, no,
we
no.
talked
So
about.
I wouldn't say that either one of these are First
I
Amendment violations,
I'm
right?
just
I'm
I
not gonna.
want you to talk about
Yeah.
the difference.
Okay, so I won't make the claim that what they're doing is, and I won't make the claim that what Biden did is. What I will say is it's certainly maybe they're crossing a line with data breach and things like that, but I can't make the claim that they're First Amendment violations with specifically with Biden because so what they did was they compiled like lists of users and sent it over to like Meta or whatever. And they were like, hey, these people are probably violating your terms of service. You know, you may want to look to that. I still find that problematic because it's an air of
It's an
pressure without simply saying,
right,
hey, we're going to charge you if you don't do this.
right.
Them doing this is just absolutely, this is fucking fascist crazy shit. You can't criticize us. We're gonna pull your information. Like, how fucking insane does that fucking sound? That's crazy. Like, I'm gonna pull an RJ. That's fucking crazy. Like, that's crazy. That's
Yeah,
like
it's
literally,
wild.
I can't deal with it. Like, I cannot deal with the hypocrisy of people being like, oh, the government censored me, but they can collect all my data. Are you
Right.
what? Bro, what? Bro, fucking what? Like, I'm
As you
sorry. I
as you
don't
have said dozens of times, everybody's okay with a dictator as long as it's their dictator.
that's exactly it. That's my problem with largely the right and a lot of the left. I promise you, if a Democrat came out and like was like, I'm gonna ban the Second Amendment, Democrats would be fine with that, even if you did it through an EO. I'm gonna tell you right now, most Democrats would be like, cool, I'm all right with that. And that's what's sad to me. Is like, fight for your actual fucking rights. Even if you don't like
Fight for
them,
your
fight for
rights.
them.
Right. And understand that when you start taking away other people's rights, your rights are in jeopardy too. Like you think it doesn't affect you, but it does. When they start taking rights away from one person, it ultimately affects your rights as well. This whole the leopards won't eat my face shit is a fallacy. They will eventually run out of faces over here and they will make it to your face.
Well, that's the entire problem is that, like, when you start letting somebody infringe on anyone's rights, you have left your own rights in free fall. That is the simple fact of the matter. If they can violate their Fourth Amendment, their First Amendment, their Second Amendment, their 14th Amendment, believe me, motherfucker, they don't stop with just those people. That is the literal way it works. We know this historically. Like, this is not I'm just spinning yarns. When the government is rampantly, and I criticize Democrats for the exact same fucking shit. So please don't misunderstand me when I see them tiptoeing lines with the Second Amendment or even the First Amendment. I criticize them the same fucking way. For the love of God, if they can stomp on somebody else's rights, they sure the fuck will stomp on yours. May not be tomorrow, may not be next week, but believe me, they will come for you too, baby, because eventually your speech will become dissident speech. I feel better. I'm sorry, I had to rant for a second.
Yeah, no, that's good. I actually kind of feel like after not being here for a week and a half that might be a good place to end it because that's something everybody just needs to sit with for a minute. Like I
Okay.
don't feel like enough of us are angry enough. Like if you don't understand that the violation of anyone's rights is also the violation of yours, you might need to think about that.
I'm down. I'm good to go. Like, yeah, just I'll end with some final words. It's the same thing I say every time and I'll continue to say it. Oh shoot. Sorry, the stupid thing. Um what? Sorry, this thing is making me like verify a puzzle piece. That was the weirdest thing I've
Oh
ever seen.
yeah.
Of course I did it right now and I'm like, we gotta go. Yeah, I'll end with this. Two things this time. As Goog said, I'm fond of saying everybody likes a dictator as long as it's their dictator. Think independently and never trust the government. I don't care who's in charge. Googs, what you got, baby?
I don't know. I don't know. I guess like let's take the wins where we can get them. I am thankful that we're starting to see some pushback or at least some checks in our checks and balances system. And yeah, I don't really have a whole lot of words of like encouragement. Just remember what I said at the end, like if you stand back and watch other people's rights get violated, that your rights are next. So just think about that.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Y'all have a good one. Thank you.